Hey, I'm Andre, and
I'm Hailey.
And so together we're kind of going through a series of videos. Probably, if you're watching this video, you've probably watched us in a few others. So in this one, we're going to be talking about reporting, right? So this is kind of like after you've made all the stuff, you're having conversations happen. It's like, what in the world's going on? This is hopefully what we're doing today, is unlocking that secret of like, aha, now I can see what I've actually been doing. So, in fact, Hailey, I would say before we get into it that I think Echo obviously has to be about the conversations, but something you've probably heard me say that I say a lot around here is we're really building a reporting system. Like at the end of the day, and I didn't realize this maybe until fairly recently, but maybe in the last 2 years, it's kind of like, oh, I see. It matters a lot that the conversation works amazingly, that it's fast, everything's great about it. But if you're the manager of the ministry, what you want to know is like, what do we do, right? Yeah. You know, and like, because like you can do some of the conversations, but it's like, did my team respond? Did we answer them all? Did we do a good job? All of that and more can be found in reporting. And I actually think, like, if you're watching this video, it means you've become a customer or about to become a customer of Echo, and you've made an awesome decision. Because when I look at the marketplace today, even outside of ministry tools, I don't think anything has the kind of reporting that we're about to show. So
let's see it.
Yeah, how's that for a build-up? So let's hop over, and I'm just going to show you a few of the reports. We are always adding new reports. In fact, literally, while I'm sitting here right now, next door to our studio is the team. They're hard at work, and they're about to release a bunch of new reports on a new feature we're about to release. So it's just always growing and changing. But this is the reporting area, and you'll see it's kind of categorized right now in these kind of 4 major headings of what we've creatively called reports, which really just means all the things that didn't fit in these other categories. We have some dedicated like phone call reporting. So if that's not something you're doing as a ministry, you can kind of just ignore that area entirely. We have heat maps, which I'll show you in a second, and then we have stuff around users. So those are kind of our 4 big reporting areas. And inside reports, if I could only pick one report, it's this conversations report. This conversations report shows me so many amazing things just from this one report. It's if I could only have one, this is it. And so let me just kind of use it as an orientation to all the reporting. There are these 2 choices across the top: sources and permission sets. So what do you think sources is?
Sources, I'm going to assume the different channels.
Yeah, that's right. It's just those different channels, and real specifically whatever they are inside that, right? So it's like, oh, cool, I have this WhatsApp thing, and I've got this web chat. And so I can go in and just kind of select some. And when I select some of whatever that is, it kind of just turns this top area, this kind of like light blue color. So when it's white, it means nothing is selected. And then if I select all of it, it turns blue. And if I select some of it, so like in this case, there's multiple Facebook pages. Once I select all of those, it turns blue, like the full filled in. But if it's kind of half filled in, it just means some of those are selected. And we can see them all in the list here. Okay, so once I've selected my sources, that's telling Echo these are the things it's going to run this report against. So what's super cool about this is you may have like 5 Facebook pages as a ministry. You can go in here and say like, hey, I only want to see reporting for this one page or these 2 pages in this website or whatever combination. You can put them in there as your sources, and then you see the answer down below for that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So next is permission sets, and permission sets are well, they're 2 things. They're a group of people and then a group of what they have permission for. So, right, in this scenario, we don't really care so much what they have permission for. We're kind of using them like teams. So it's a way for you to kind of see, like, maybe this thing that says demo email, maybe that would say, like, that's the demo email team. That's a team of users that do that. And here's this demo text. This is the demo account, so there's a lot of demo things. And so inside here, I could say, like, just show me things, reporting of people that had conversations that's in one of those permission sets. Okay, so this is our sources, our channels. These are our permission sets or teams. And then over here we have this created at, closed at. Oh man, so this is getting heavy now. This is certainly a different thing. And so here's the deal. When we first built Echo, we built it based off of chat. So chat was like the first thing we made. And a web chat typically takes place and finishes in a fairly short amount of time, like usually the same day. So certainly within the month. And so that was fine to make reporting based off of what time the conversation got created. But then what happened is conversations started spanning across more than just a month or just more than just a day and went maybe a month or multiple months. And what happened in that is it started spanning over that time is it changed the reporting because the conversations maybe started in October and then closed in November. But when it closed in November, we were basing it off of the date it created, which was in October. And so what would happen is in the month of October, that wouldn't show up because it was still open.
Yeah.
So you would run the month-end report and it wouldn't show there. And then you'd be over in November and it's like, oh, I see this conversation's open. Okay, now it's closed. But when it closed, it was because it was basing it off the created date. It was going back over to October. So that was creating some confusion. So if you are a ministry, I guess what I'd say is if you're a ministry that's doing what we would call asynchronous conversation. So a conversation that happens where I send a message. So this would be like texting or email or anything other than like what you and I are doing right now to each other is synchronous. Like I'm saying something, you're saying something. What you're doing with us is asynchronous, right? We've sent this video to you and you're watching it when you have time, which is not the same time we're making it right now. So if you're doing asynchronous conversations, these conversations that are not live, that are happening in real time, you're going to probably almost always want to move that over, and I think it remembers this setting, but move this over to closed at. And then that's just going to show you the date on which they close. So that means if I started conversations in October and I wait until November, and that's when all those conversations close, as long as I'm doing the closed at and I'm using November as my date stamp, it's going to all show up in there.
Okay.
It's kind of weird. Does that make sense, though?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So, and then over here on this far side, we have a calendaring option. And so this is how you select your date range. And it's just as simple as selecting your start date, selecting your end date. And you can see it's got that span going across there. And we already default to 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. But you could go in and maybe you only wanted to see on the 6th of November, so we could select that as both the beginning and end date, and maybe you only want to know for a certain time. You can do that there. So hopefully fairly straightforward calendaring setups. So once you're done with that and you've kind of gone in and done whatever you need to do there, we'll just go ahead and make ours. That's kind of fun. I was just curious while I'm doing this live video here. I was curious what would happen if I chose December while I was in the month of November, but that worked. So anyway, so once we see our list of things, that's great, and we see a few things here. So we see these totals, like total private messages, how many total conversations, and then clients. This is the total number of unique clients. So these are just the number of unique people we talk to. So, and we can see that here. So like we can see that their names, yes, I do have a lot of conversations with myself. So it's mainly me. And then look, Hailey, you made it into the list. And also pray for Hailey and I, because apparently both of us are both sad and upset and depressed right now for other demos. Okay, so also if I go in here, I have an advanced search area, and this is super cool because like if we look in here, see how some of these have different outcomes. So I could say like right now I had 6 conversations, and again, I know this number is small, but just to demonstrate, but I could go in here and choose my outcome, and these outcomes, who gets to select the outcomes, Hailey?
You do.
Yeah, you do.
Or I do.
yeah, in this scenario, you do. So the person watching, you've selected your outcomes. But let's say we wanted to see like, okay, well, how many out of these 6 conversations did we have that were gospel conversations? I can just press that and then see the answer, change the tally to whatever that is for those. We have tags, and so here you can click on this and see a list of tags that you have and run reporting against that. And also I should mention, like I can click more than one thing, right? So I can click multiple options and bring what may really make sense to bring them all in, but I could bring all of those in if I want to. I can hit clear if I want it to go away.
Okay.
We also have flags, so I could see it. This is really cool because one of the things that we've recently added into this report, which seems obvious now, is the notes field. Now, in this scenario, it doesn't matter because it's blank. But if I had written notes about this and maybe flagged the conversation as like a testimonial, well then, as long as your users did that and just wrote the notes around, like, here's the story of what this conversation was, well, now you have a report where you can push one button and see every testimonial and here's kind of like a quick description. So this really helps your marketing department or whoever, like kind of your donor relations, like, hey, here's what's awesome and here's what we did. So it's a really powerful tool to have that notes. I would really encourage you Hailey, to tell your fake users and you watching to tell your real users to flag things like testimonial and then make sure and put some notes in, and man, you'll have a one-click report that you can do that will just make your next donor meeting that much more amazing.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. And so we have other things here. So in other videos, we've talked about filters. And so in this case, we could go in and we could see these different filters. And you don't have to remember all the details about them. But, even if I just came in here and I started typing like depression, right? So I could just choose that from the list. And I could apply this new set of criteria. And when I do, we'll see, okay, well, here's 2 conversations that our filtering system detected was depression based off of those words. So if you haven't watched that one yet around filtering, that's some of how this is powerful. You could say, by running a report like, well, how many conversations did we have in English about depression? Or I could go in here, if I'm multilingual, I could do that. And let's see, did I make a... what do I have for Spanish here? Let's pretend I have a Spanish one that also, I've got nothing there. Let's see, hold on. And let's say I have a Spanish one and it's about something. Certainly I think I put at least a couple. Problemas. So let's pretend that says depression also, right? But in Spanish, pretend. Mm-hmm. So if it did have that, then I could push this button and I could see across each of my different languages, here's the total amount of conversations that filters have grabbed around those particular topics. So really powerful to see, like, okay, well, here's all the conversations that meet that. We could also just look for keywords. So maybe there's a word that we wanted to look and see if it had, or a particular name of a client that we wanted, a seeker. We could put that in here. Maybe there's something in the notes that we want to look for to see if anybody has, or any of these other bits of information, we can do that. So if you only had one report, this is it. 2 last things. Filter. Think of that like search within the results that are displayed here. So this is where I could write this, right? And that's going to show up just from this list. But if there was something that was outside of the constraints I've already put on this, it's not going to find it. Okay, so it's think of it as it's only searching what's listed down below. Okay. So advanced search is like searching all the stuff on Echo, and filter is more like searching the stuff that's showing up in the results. And then 2 last things. Over here on this side, we have this button, and if we press this button, it will download this as a .csv file. Have you ever heard of a .csv before?
I have not.
Yeah. So a .csv stands for comma separated value, which just means it would be like Facebook, comma, I am sad, blah, 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 comma, Andre Dantzler, comma, So it just means each field is represented by a comma, and good news, you don't need to know any of that, but you can just open that in Excel, you can open that in Google Sheets, and you can open that in Apple Numbers. So in any of the spreadsheet tools, it's going to read that and turn it back into a spreadsheet.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So you can export this and open it in your spreadsheet tool of choice. Okay, so, one last thing is you'll notice these are blue, which probably means I can click on them. So indeed, I can. So when I click on that, I can review the conversation. I can see all the information about the conversation. I could even adjust the outcome. So it's like, actually, we got to present the gospel in that. They chose the wrong thing. You could change those settings and save it and make those changes as well. Okay, so you can change that, add tags, add notes, whatever you want to do, and save that inside that as well.
Great.
See how if you only had one report, this would be the one?
Mm-hmm. It does everything.
Yeah, except it does everything related to conversation. So there's also people that are coming in to have a conversation. They haven't had it yet. This doesn't show that. So this is just showing every conversation that's been claimed and has been active. That's what this is showing. So that is the conversations report, but through that, hopefully we showed you a bunch of the information of how all these reports work. Oh, I didn't talk about the star. So let's show you the star by going to another report. So I can go over here to this totals. This is another one that will show me my lifetime totals. Pretty much killing it on this demo account. We've had we've had 72 amazing conversations on Facebook. This is a way to show you how many total conversations and how many unique people you've had a conversation with. And then down below, these organization KPIs, you can see this shows the total number of clients. It shows the number of inbound messages and outbound messages and closed conversations and countries and all this information from that. And again, just a reminder, this is doing that based off of this date range, based off of this set of sources, based off of this set of permissions.
Okay.
So, if you've made a change here, if you were like, oh man, I really want to see it across everything, well, no problem. You just want to go and click each of these. And if they're light blue like that, just click it twice and then that'll make it all the way blue. That's going to bring it all in and bring our totals up. Now with permission sets, you have kind of two choices. You can kind of just unselect everything if you only have a few selected, or select all of them. It's usually just kind of easier to deselect. If it goes down to 0, then it's going to assume I'm not trying to do anything with permission sets and I'm only looking at sources. This star, I still haven't mentioned it. So if I go in and click this star, what this does is it adds it to the dashboard. And so the dashboard becomes this place where you can see different items that you've starred. So if there's certain reports that's like, man, every day I'm going to look at this, I'm going to log in and see what it says, you're going to click on the dashboard. Well, then you're just going to find that report and then just star it. And if you're like, oh, cool, I don't need this anymore, it's irrelevant to me, then you can just unstar it.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Okay, so there's lots of reports. There's another video that kind of walks through each of these reports in more detail, but I thought this one could be helpful to just maybe show two more quick ones here. One is if you're Facebook heavy, you'll get pretty excited, I think, about this messages report. In fact, to better demonstrate this, let me just deselect some things so we kind of remove some clutter. In fact, our little fake Facebook page is called Radiohead Support Group. Sounds fascinating, doesn't it? So inside here, we have our Radiohead Support Group. We have the total number of messages. So a message is me sending you outbound from us, going out from us, a Facebook Messenger message. So if I say, hi, Hailey, how are you? And send that from Echo, that is a Facebook Messenger message that's going to your Facebook Messenger inbox. And then outbound comment, or maybe let me just define comment. A comment is on the Facebook page that Echo manages. This is a page comment. So this isn't a private message between you and I. It is a public comment on a post. Okay, so comments are posts, and messages are private Facebook Messenger. And this is kind of exciting. Just at the recording of this video, we've actually added a new feature from this morning. Has made its way into production, so that's kind of funny that just got added in. So this added in option is we have the total number of unique clients. These are unique Facebook Messenger clients. And then the total number of unique page clients. These are people that have commented on a post in our public page. Okay, so this way you can kind of track like how many people are on our page and interacting with it, and how many unique people are we having private one-to-one conversations with. And then down below that, I can see the outcomes of the conversations. Hailey, who picks these outcomes?
I do.
Yeah, that's right. So you guys pick your own outcomes. These are just the outcomes that we have here. Okay, so 2 other quick ones just to show you there's lots to explore here. But one of them is a heat map. This heat map's going to be pretty boring for this particular thing. But here we can see in this week, today is Wednesday when we're recording this video, and it's Wednesday afternoon, and we did a few things this morning, testing some things out. But normally this will be mostly green, and the higher the number it is, the more red it will be. In our case, we just have 2 numbers, so it's not a lot to show.
Yeah.
But this is a quick way for you to see, like, oh, okay, cool. What what all are we doing? How many conversations are we having? When are there a lot of people online and we're having more conversations, and when are we having less conversations? Again, because this is a demo account, this doesn't look anything like it'll look in production. But yeah, so you can see that here. I was hoping that I'd see more, and then I can average that into a week, and I can just kind of see like, oh, okay, well, when are busy times in an average week, based off of that time range that I picked. And obviously it's going to pick Wednesday. It's still going to average that out to be some activity there, because there's not much activity overall. Okay, so let's bring that in. Okay, great, sure. Use the time in the future, that's fine too. Last one I just want to show really quickly is users, right? So you want to know, like, what are my users doing? There's a bunch of different reports here. I'm going to show you 2 just really quickly. One is user performance, where I can see their name, I can see their email, and I can see other information. You'll notice I only see a sampling of users. I don't see all my users. So the reason I don't see all my users is because this is just all the users that had some activity or logged in some way during that time. But here we can see how many claimed conversations they had, how many they're active right now, and that actually means now. So even if you set the date range to like a year ago, active now means right now at this second.
Okay.
That's kind of confusing, but the reason we did it that way is we found that no matter what you're looking at, you kind of always want to know, like, what are they doing right now? And so we just have left that in as just kind of an active. And then this is how many they've sent, how many replies have happened, how many conversations they've completed. We can see how long they were logged in, how many hours they were logged in, how many unique people they talked to, and then how many of the different channels that we have. In this case, since I've selected just Facebook as one of the options, one of the sources, I only see that here, but I could have others listed. And then here's the different outcomes that we have. Okay, last one. We can go in here and we can look at different user accounts, and when we do, we can see that user account, we can see their conversations and the outcomes, and then we can see like a actual timeline that's kind of like represented by these little dots. Sometimes these dots are really close together, and then a little flag up here kind of describing how long they were online or whatever they were doing. So in this case, I was online for about 11 hours having it open. I probably didn't do much of anything, but I was probably just having that on my screen while I was testing some things out. So you can go through and kind of navigate through that week and see, oh, okay, they were online for about less than a minute. They were online for about 2 hours. What did they do? I'm a terrible volunteer. Hailey, I sent one Facebook message in 2 hours. But this is where you can see like exactly what they did. And then down below it, just a bunch of nerdy different information. But to hit the highlights, we could see like what their IP address was that they were connecting to us from, if they have a browser phone that they've connected, if they have different permissions, what are those permissions that they have access to, what some recent messages that they've had, we can look at those and see and what those outcomes were. So it's just kind of a way to kind of see a lot about the user, and you can also view a PDF. So if you wanted to like print almost like a performance review, you could do that from here and be like, hey, I see last month you were online for this amount of time, you did this sort of thing, let's talk about that, how you could be better, etc. Okay? And same sorts of things, date range is affected here, sources are affected here, and that closed at, created at date effective there. Oh my goodness, so many words around reporting.
Yeah.
But you can see how, like, at the end of the day, this is the big difference. This is the thing that I think is your secret sauce for scaling your organization. Because, I mean, we've had ministries come to us before and they just didn't know. They didn't know, like, what all was happening. Or maybe they had just these top level, like, we did this many. And not the kind of granularity, and those are just a few of, I don't know, a bunch of different reports inside there. So good luck with the reporting. Let us know what you're trying to measure. I think, like I said, at the end of the day, I think reporting is this kind of core thing that really makes us different from everything else that's out in the marketplace that I see today. So if you're like, if you're doing this, if you're using our reporting and you end up like, copying and pasting a number and building a different kind of spreadsheet trying to see those results, please let us know that you're doing that and help us understand what it is you're trying to do, because we want to make it where you just push the button. We actually saw a client came in and we watched them do an end of month report, and that person was handwriting the number. So they'd see the number, they'd handwrite it on a piece of paper, and then they'd bring over to another thing and type it in. And we're like, oh no, what's happening? How can we just help you where you push the button and get the answer that you need? That's what we're striving for. We can't always get there immediately, but keep telling us how you're using reporting and what you wish reporting would do. And one of two things will happen. Either we already have a way to do it and I'll show you how to do it, or someone on the team will show you how to do it. Or number two, we'll build it so that it can do that functionality, because it's probably a pretty good idea. So, all right, Hailey, go forth and report.
I will. I can't wait.
Yeah, if knowledge is power, man, you're powerful now. So, all right, y'all, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and talk to you soon, I guess.